Welcome to the Rhythm and Remedy podcast.
The time has come to share your thoughts, relive your moments, open up your heart with one and only Rhythm and Remedy. What's up, everybody? What's going on? We are back with another one. Yes, R&R, aka Rhythm and Remedy, the podcast where music meets medicine. And joining me today, actually, to start off, is Owen Christensen, who is the producer of the show as well. He's going to be asking questions with me as well and being a part of the conversation. And so thankful that we could be outside here in beautiful Deep Cove, taking in all the surroundings, all the sawing in the background, and all the sort of beautiful nature sounds. I mean, that's what North Van is really known for. And to add on to that, joining us today is a very special guest, someone who has bled hockey all of his life, played right from the beginning, you could say, right from when he was 3 years old, and played in the WHL with the Red Deer Rebels and the Everett Silvertips. Won a Calder Cup with Grand Rapids Griffins in Michigan. In the AHL, played with Detroit, Boston, and Minnesota in the NHL and in the European leagues. The son of a very decorated person and athlete, former NHLer Ray Ferraro, who is now one of the best color analysts in the game of hockey, and the stepson of Cami Granado, who is obviously a very decorated hockey player herself, but also is now one of the assistant general managers of the Vancouver Canucks. Pleased to welcome to the show Mr. Landon Ferraro. Thanks for joining us, man. It really means a lot.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, first of all, I really wanted to touch on what you were doing now. So after you've retired from the game of hockey, like, where has everything taken you now, and what's sort of the future plans for you? Because I know that you've been doing a lot of analyst stuff for the Abbotsford Canucks and on Sportsnet. Is that sort of what you have mapped out for the future here?
Yeah, that's what I'm going for. My first year out of playing, I took an assistant coaching job in Langley, actually, with the Rivermen in the BCHL, and that was fun.
Wow. But
I definitely quickly found out that coaching wasn't really what I saw myself doing for the next 30 years or so.
Yeah.
I really liked working with the kids and like doing the skill development and having kind of the one-on-one conversations and helping them through starting a junior career and hoping to have a long playing career. I enjoyed that side of it, but video is not that fun to be watching a ton of and doing all that. So I did that for the 1 year, and then I was lucky enough to get asked to be on the panel between periods for the Canucks on Sportsnet. And
amazing.
So I think I got about 25 games last year that I did, and then I called about 15 games for Sportsnet Radio. It's on 650 doing the Canucks games as well. So that was a lot of fun. I really enjoy the panel work, but the game analyst is where the fun really is for me. It feels like you're as much involved in the game that you can be without having to really worry about what the outcome is. As a coach, you're living and dying with wins and losses and all that.
Yeah.
For, on the analyst side, like, you do your prep work, you do all that, you call the game, you feel like you're right in it. But as soon as that horn goes, whether they lost 8-1 or won 8-1, I'm driving home, and that's the end of my night. So I really enjoy that side. So, just trying to keep going and try and gather as much as I can as I'm moving forward here.
I think you touched on something that's really awesome in terms of the internalized and externalized pressure that you feel when you're a coach, right? Because you do die by the wins and losses, and you're as good as sometimes your team is too. But it just all, when it comes down to that, as we hear some panic buttons. I don't think I honestly don't think a lot of car owners around here want to be coaches either. So
Yeah, I don't think so. It's honestly, it's one of those things that you think you understand and you have a pretty good grasp of, how much their life is fully about the team and trying to make sure that they're prepared and you've given them everything that they need. But once the puck drops, like you're standing behind the bench, and other than, changing the lines and kind of manipulating that way, it's up to the players and it's out of your hands. And that's the toughest part. Like you go from playing where, your team might be struggling a little bit. You need to try and find that momentum back. And you can go back on the ice and try and throw a big hit, try and score a goal, do something to, help your team. But when you're behind the bench, like you're kind of helpless. You just hope that all the work that you've done before that game comes through and the guys are able to execute.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I guess the question that comes from that is, when you were a player, obviously you were playing and you were part of the moment, you were in big clutch games and everything. And sometimes, like as a player, as a team, sometimes, you get into different discussions with coaches and stuff like that. And do you feel like, though, through the coaching experience that you did get, that there was some sort of understanding, like, okay, now I kind of more understand what coaches go through, whereas a player, you kind of just live in the moment? Or was that something that you always knew?
Again, I think that's one of those where you think you knew as a player, but then you get to the other side. And I mean, especially it was, I started coaching that year. It was basically a month after I decided to retire. So like I was still training, looking for my contract in Europe, and I had a couple good options, but my wife was pregnant with our first kid, and knew he was going to be, the due date was in December, and there was just a lot going on, and it got to a point where I'm like, you know what, it's not worth to keep chasing another couple of years. And I had another big concussion that last year, and you have to kind of start thinking, as much as I love the game and I don't want to give it up, is this really what's best for me and my family moving forward? And at that point, it didn't make sense anymore. But you start right away on the coaching side, and there's so much that you think that, okay, I'm going to be this type of coach. I know I was an assistant, right? Like, I was just following the lead, but at the same time, I want to be this type of a coach for the guys.
Yeah.
And then you get into it and you're like, well, that's not going to work. Like, you got to, I'm just supposed to push pucks this way and then help with the power play over here. And you do what you can. And it was just such a different experience of, you're in control, yet you don't feel like you have much. As a player, I always felt that you weren't really in control because you had to listen to what the coach was saying. But really, when you look back, like, you're fully in control of what happens.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's your choice to follow the coach and follow the game plan and be there for their teammates. Some guys are really good at that. Some guys go off on their own page, and that's why, they don't make it as far, or they get moved around a bunch because they can't find that cohesiveness within a group. And and then bringing that to the coaching side, to where you're helping young players try and figure that out while figuring out who they are as people as well, right? They're 16 to 20-year-olds. Like, there's a lot of change going on, mentally and physically at that age. So,
for sure, 100%.
And that was the part that I ended up really enjoying, was like the on ice stuff was fun, and trying to help a kid figure out a different move or how to get his shot off quicker to beat a goalie. Like, all that was fun, but it was more the after, before or after practice, you're kind of walking around the room and a kid might grab you, or you see a kid that's, he just looks off that day, and you sit down and have a quick little 5-minute talk with them. And sometimes it's about hockey, sometimes it's about something else.
Yeah.
That was the part that I did really enjoy.
No, that's really beautiful. And, I guess that you can tie that into being, an analyst, now, in terms of the path that you've gotten into. I guess, like, being a former player, there's that understanding now, like I have to call it the way I see it. But as a player, sometimes, you're like, oh, why did they say these things? Or how were those things? Why were those things worded the way they were? You know what I mean? And so get into to be like, yeah, I just have to call it the way I see it. It might not be the most rosy of pictures, but I have to, that's just part of the job description.
I mean, I'd say that's something I'm still really figuring out as well,
Yeah.
right? Like, I've done it for a year and I feel like I've got a pretty good base of where I'm at in it. And, luckily I do have my dad to lean on. And
Yeah.
when I have questions or things come up, I can bounce it off him, just like when I was a player. Same
Yeah.
thing. I'd call him after pretty much every game.
Yeah.
And kind of go through stuff. I think the best advice that I got, though, is just like you have to be fair.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're going to make comments, say they're playing a game Friday night and they play Saturday as well at home.
Yeah.
You make comments Friday night, you have to be able to go into the room and look that person in the eye, whether you're saying something good or bad about them.
Yeah.
But as long as they know that it was fair,
Yeah.
then you're okay. Like, you can't sit there and be roses all the time and just say, oh, it was amazing, it's a great job. Like, guys are going to make mistakes all over the place.
Yeah.
And some are bad bounces, some are just mental mistakes and they cost a big goal against or take a penalty at a wrong time, and you have to be able to talk about that. But at the end of the day, a lot of guys know their game and they know when they've made a mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't need to keep kicking them in the shin. But you have to talk about it. So as long as you're fair and you know that the next day that I'm not going to be trying to hide from someone, that's when you've gone too far.
Of course.
Right? So as long as you can find that balance of speaking to the audience and showing or talking about the play or whatever the instance was, as long as you know that you didn't go too far, you're fair with your analysis, and at the end of the day, the guy probably would agree with you.
Yeah.
He's not going to do it on camera and say like, hey, you were totally right about my mistake, but just even a little look and you're like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
It's like you have a job to do as well, right? Like, they're trying to be the best they can on the ice and make the best plays that they possibly can every single time. It's the same when you're on TV or on the radio. You're trying to put the best content out. You're trying to make sure that your analysis is spot on and showing something that maybe the average viewer wouldn't have seen in the play.
Exactly.
It's tougher in a market here where, a lot of people played.
It's like the fans and
they
the players.
understand the game. Sometimes you wish you're in a smaller American market where they don't have quite the knowledge that they do here, and you can get away with a little more.
Yeah. But I mean, I think there's something to say about being in a very big Canadian market like this. I think Vancouver is super different in that sense because, like you said, there's the fans, and then there's probably the pseudo fans, the pseudo players, if you will. And then there's the actual, players and everyone here. And there's a lot of things, when it comes to being a fan of a Canadian team, especially. But, it's like we're all sort of a big family of people who either agree or disagree with one another. And so it's like when you're an analyst, I feel like do you feel like there's a bit more pressure in that sense where that you're probably going to get called out by, a few fans or anything like that? Is there anything that you feel when it comes to that?
Oh, you definitely, especially like you're sitting on the panel and the red light is just about to go on. Like,
and you only have a certain amount of time, right?
Exactly, right? Like, you think it's this, and it is important. It's, it's your job, but it's also you're on TV. You're speaking to a big audience.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you might, say Sports Center back in Toronto runs a little longer than you were expecting. All of a sudden, you have 3.5 minutes. And, Dan Murphy needs to speak, whether it's Sat Shaw or Dave Tomlinson. Now, we need to split that time, so you need to make sure you have your points ready and you're going. But the thing that I did kind of laugh at myself early on, the first couple is the thing that I didn't realize that I missed so much from playing was the fact that whether I did something right or wrong, I was going to hear about it right away. And it's a lot like being in the media in Vancouver. You make a really good point or you make a point that people don't agree with. You're going to hear about it right away. And kind of having that, what's the right way to say it? Like having that feeling of oh, I better be ready. Like, I can't mess this up. Like, having that pressure, I guess, like that little bit of pressure, like I missed that from playing, and I didn't really realize how much I did until I started doing the media stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's like a sort of like a clutch thing to it too, right? Where it's like you only have like a minute to say what you have to say about a certain topic within the game. And, if you don't do it in the way that you want to, right? There's that, that internalized pressure that you feel. But, I feel like the best thing about you and even Sat, you guys are some of my favorites as well. I think the way you guys call it for what it is, but also there's this like sort of reasonable tone to it. And I think, for yourself too, because you are a player, I think there's a former player as well. Like there's a understanding of how, certain mistakes happen or how the game within the game happens. So that's something I do appreciate. I did want to go back a little bit, to the start of your career and everything and how it all began. How did being Ray Ferraro's son, shape your identity sort of on and off the ice? Like, did you feel like you had to carve your own path for yourself? And what was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I felt that more as I got older. As a kid, it wasn't, it's not like me and my older brother ever had pressure to play hockey. My older brother was a goalie, and he was someone that he loved being on a team. He liked the game.
Yeah.
Like he liked being part of the team.
Yeah.
And he worked at it, but it wasn't something, especially as he got older, that he's like, I'm all in on hockey. He had a bunch of other interests and all of that, and that was totally okay. Like, my parents were very good about that.
Yeah.
For me, I was the kid that they had to say, like, stop playing for a second, right? Like, I loved it so much. And and like there would be times where, it's a Saturday morning, my dad had practice, and I'd be waiting at the door, like, because I knew I got to go to practice that day because there was no school, and maybe they had to win the night before. So I'm like, okay, I get to go. That means I get to skate before the guys get on the ice. I can jump on as guys are coming off the ice. Like, I lived for it. And it was something that it was my passion. I played other sports, but it always came back to hockey. And, as I got older, I wanted to definitely have my own life within the game. I wasn't always tied back to my dad. And for a lot of people, and I have a lot of things that I'd always hear, it was always, like, Landon's a pretty good player, but his dad's Ray.
His dad's Ray.
Of course, genetics are there, and you have some advantages that way if they, you win that lottery a little bit. But, like it took me a long time to realize, and just getting older and being more comfortable in yourself that, I had help, and I always had someone to talk to and be able to go through. But, I worked really hard at it, and I loved it, and it was the thing that I wanted to do. And in my teenage years, it definitely got a little testy with me and my dad of, like his line that he always said, which now I laugh at the time. I'd be like, I'd roll my eyes again and be like, oh, not this again. But he's like, if I was a plumber, I couldn't help you as much, but you chose to play hockey. That's what I've done with my life. And not only that, but you're playing center. I'm a center. Like you're playing the exact position that I did for 18 years professionally.
Yeah.
And it took us a bit, probably through my first couple of years of junior to figure out, what system worked for us. And it got to a point where, we realized, I'd call after a game, and sometimes I'd jump right into whatever happened because he'd watch every game. Even when I was playing in Europe at the end, like he'd be between the benches and he'd have an iPad up watching my game while the NHL game was going on. I don't know how he could make that all work and still do his job, but like I said, I'd call, and sometimes I'd jump right into the game and talk about plays, and we'd go through everything.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'd call, and maybe I had a really bad game, and I knew I had a bad game. I don't want to talk about it again.
Yeah.
And we'd talk about anything else, right? Like, as much as he is an expert at the game, I still need him to be dad. At times, right?
100%.
So a big part of it was just leave it up to me, right? Like, if I want to talk about the game, I'll bring it up. But he can't be the one to always jam it down my throat. Not that he was doing it in a bad way. He wanted to help. He wanted to make sure that I could get to the place and get to the point in my career that I wanted to get to.
Yeah, exactly. Like who yourself Landon is, right?
Exactly.
And so, that makes me really emotional just hearing you talk about it, because I feel that same connection, obviously with my whole family, but my father especially, because he's been my manager since the beginning of time. And he's a lyricist by trait, but he's someone who has a really good ear for music. Like he doesn't sing, but like he's always there trying to tell me about certain notes that I hit that maybe I didn't hit the right way, or like he knows, like he can tell those things. And he's never missed a show. He's always, like, if he's not there, he's always listening to it through a device, or, I think that's such a beautiful connection we can have, even though sometimes as kids, it'll drive us nuts, right? Like, and I think it's a good message to parents and kids to, obviously be present in their lives, and also make sure to allow them to make mistakes and learn from their mistakes. Obviously, you don't want to compound your mistakes, but, I think, when it comes to parental guidance, I think when it's done the right way, it's a very beautiful thing. And like you said, it's making sure that you're allowed to grow as you. And I feel like, in the entertainment industry, especially, like whether it's the sporting world or the music world, I've had friends that grew up with like, who are sons or daughters of like really like renowned singers or musicians, and it's like, oh, now you got to follow their path, or now you're a musician, so you got to be like them. And it's like, trends change, things change over time. The game of hockey changes over time. Music has changed over time, and you still have to find that path for yourself to and in terms of who you are, because, we're all individuals, right? We all have, different ways of communicating, and our souls are different, So yeah, I mean, that's a really beautiful thing. I think that's really beautiful the way you laid it out. One of the other things I really wanted to ask you about was, obviously dealing with, you've dealt with injuries like the sports hernia and the knee injuries as well throughout your career. How did those moments of stillness, or those moments of adversity redefine what success meant to you, or teach you about being resilient?
Yeah, I mean, injuries have been a big part of my life. I'm not the biggest guy. I also didn't have the best hands either. So,
but your coach's favorite, man, 200-foot player.
200-foot player that would do some things sometimes that the coach would not be very happy about. But like I wasn't a Quinn Hughes that is just dazzling with the puck, and he can handle it at his size because the way that he can maneuver himself and really get himself out of tricky situations. I kind of had to put myself into those tricky situations because I didn't have the hands to get myself out of trouble.
Yeah.
Or things like that. And, it was, it's, junior, I had my first hernia surgery in junior, and that was like my first real big injury. I had a couple of concussions early and that, but you're young and you don't think anything of it, right? You do what you need to get back, and you just start playing again. And then even with my first surgery, it was, okay, I lost a half a year, but again, I was 19. You're like, yeah, I'm young. My body will bounce back and I'll just go play and I'll be fine. As, years go on, and for a couple of years there, it was like I was a professional rehab artist instead of a hockey player. Really, like, I tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus in one go.
That's
and,
crazy.
It took a long time. And, I was back playing the next year, but I'd say it probably took 3/4 of that year for me to be comfortable again.
Yeah.
And getting back from that. But, then I had in Iowa, I was actually, I signed with Minnesota, and that was after my big knee injury. And, one of the reasons I signed there was they said, we fully understand that you're coming off a big injury, like you're going to start in Iowa, and, just get yourself back into form and feel comfortable, and then we'll go from there. I signed a 2-year deal. So they're like, you got time, don't worry about it. The first weekend happens in Minnesota, and they had, it was 3 or 4 injuries up front. Like, it was just a terrible, like the worst start you could have for a team. And so my entire line got called up right away. We played in the home opener. I scored. I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is perfect. Like, I'm back, right?
Yeah, let's go.
So, yeah, I'm like, well, this is way easier than I thought it was going to be. Like, this, coming back from my injury wasn't a big deal. We go to Winnipeg. We're in a defensive zone face-off. I'm playing wing, and they win the face-off, but it doesn't get back to their D, and I got a really good jump off of it. So I go and I poked it by the first defenseman, and now me and the other Winnipeg defensemen are chasing down the loose puck. If I get it, I'm on a breakaway. I do a little shoulder check. Of course, it's not, Brian Little, who's more my size. It's Dustin Byfuglien.
Oh, man, 6'5" beast, right?
He might have well been 8 feet tall. Like, it didn't matter at that time. Like, he's got 100 pounds on me, literally. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to cut in as hard as I can and try and surprise him. Maybe that'll be the thing that can get me to my breakaway. I go to cut in really hard. He kind of, there's a reason he's won multiple cups, and it was the player that he was. He was really smart. He kind of backed off a little and let me kind of blow through. And as I did that, I felt a massive pop in my right groin.
Oh, man.
And so I ended up still getting the breakaway, and I'm like, just get a shot on net. And I don't think I could have hit Connor Hellebuck any more square in the center of his crest. Like, it wasn't even close to going in the net.
Hey, at least it's a better shot than what I could do. So
honestly, I think you could have matched this one. It wouldn't have been far off, at least.
We'd be great teammates.
There we go. But it took me in the medical staff. It took us, into the next season. Like, this was in October. God. It took us into the next season of the rest of that year. I'd rehab for a couple weeks, feel pretty good. I'd start to play again, make it 1 to 4 or 5 games. I'd feel another pop, and then I'd be out again. So it was just kind of in and out. And then we figured it out the next year that I had another hernia and I'd torn my adductor off the bone. So it was another big surgery, and that was really the end of.
Was that sort of was that sort of the surgery that Tkachuk had, because he had off the bone?
I'm pretty sure, pretty close to that. Yeah. I don't know exactly, what he had. I know he said tore the adductor off, and again, there's 4 different connectors in there, right? So one of them goes, and I realized that every time that I felt one of those pop, it was another little piece of that adductor being pulled off the bone.
Yeah.
I had a big lump on the inside of, it was like the size of a golf ball on the inside of my groin. And you're like, you could literally grab it and kind of move it around. It was the muscle.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm not a doctor, but I know this isn't right,
Yeah. I know.
But there's so much that goes into it. And what I did realize, again, as I'm looking back and, I was through all of it, the one thing that, I was really proud of was the fact that I was able to put the work in to get back every time. But that all goes back to my love of the game. Like, I wanted to play. I didn't want my career to be done. And it would have been pretty easy to just be like, this, I got, at that time, 8 years out of it, 7 years of pro. That's a lot more than a lot of people get, and I should just be happy with that. But, it was me not being ready to be done with the game and really pushing through that. And, it led to me going to Europe for 4 years, getting a chance to play in the Olympics. Like, there's so much that can happen sometimes if you just put your head down and don't really think about it, right? Like, just go. Sometimes that's a terrible mindset to have, but in that instance, it was good.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the whole resilience part of it, right? Is just keep continuing to fight. Yeah. And I think that that's a really good message just in terms of our lives too, right? It's sometimes you have to reevaluate. There's that practical part of it, but the emotionality part of it too is super important about how you feel about, where things are, which, I wanted to ask you about this. I mean, there's so much I want to ask you, but one of the things was when it comes to letting go of that, obviously, like you went through the WHL, AHL, NHL, and like we were talking about before we got on air was, you were moved out since you were 16. Like you went through all the leagues, through the NHL, through Europe. How difficult was it to let go of that, but to also embrace a new chapter of your life for you?
I mean, if I'm being honest with you, like I'm still dealing with it. It doesn't just go away overnight. And, I went through a lot of change all at once. I, decided on my birthday 2 years ago, August 8th, that I was going to retire. That was, when fully me and my wife sat down and just like, she was pregnant at the time and was, as much as she was worried about me, she's like, where am I having the baby? Right? Like
where
there's
are we
a lot of moving parts here. And so August 8th was the day that I was like, you know what? I'm done. Yeah. And even now, like it's something that it hits at different points of, you're like, did I make the right choice? And then I see my 1.5-year-old bombing around the backyard, and my dad's chasing him around or whatever. And I have 2 younger brothers now, and they're awesome with them. Seeing that, you're like, you know what, I probably made the right choice. But at the same time, I don't know if that feeling ever really goes away. You get more comfortable with it as you start to get other things in your life, right? For so long, from the time I was, before I have memories, and just seeing, VHSs of myself playing floor hockey or playing in the backyard, and then, me on the ice in tournaments as a kid. Like from before I could even remember, all I was focused on was hockey. Yeah. And then you retire and you start to realize like there's a lot going on around. Like I said before, like, just put your head down and kind of get through it. Yeah. Well, you pick your head up and you're like, oh, there's a lot of other things going on here in life that they're pretty good too if you actually pay attention to them. Yeah. And my wife would probably be the first one to say that there's points where I probably could pick my head up a little bit more, right? Like there's, my kid might be having a meltdown and she's just got back from work and I've been home with them. We're trying to get them to eat. Like there's so many little things that are going on, but I'm worried about the game that night. Yeah. And making sure that my prep's right and all of this. Yeah. Starting to realize that you don't have to be all or nothing with your work. Like for me, like I've always just dove into that. That's my whole identity was a hockey player. Yeah. And that's something I'm still working on, right? Like it's not, it doesn't just go away, but you have to start to realize that, okay, maybe I'm going for this new part in media. Like, I might get this job or I might get that job. Well, yeah, it's great if you get it and it's a better opportunity or whatever it may be. But if I don't, it doesn't make my life worse. No. Like there's still a lot else going on there to be really happy about and to really try and focus on that. Again, when she sees this later, she'll be laughing because she's like, you have a lot of work left on that one, right? But it's a learning curve, right? Like you're still trying to figure out, even at 30, about to be 34, I'm still trying to figure out who I am and how do I be a husband? How do I be a father while still chasing the professional side? Because like I like work. Yeah. I'm very fortunate that I get to stay in the game, or at least this far. Hopefully I can, keep kind of forcing my way in and really have a long career like my dad's had once he retired. But, it's about not letting all of that affect the other more important stuff, really. Yeah. Right. And that's definitely something I'm still working at.
No, I think, let's be real. Even for me, like, I went through a huge contract dispute when I was after the reality show that I was on, which led me.
And what year was that? Sorry.
So that was 2016.
Okay.
And so, and there was a lot of promises that were made and were not kept.
It's funny, entertainment across the board.
Yeah.
You know how rich I'd be if I got all the contracts that I was told that I was going to be signing?
And so it went on for 3 years, and, I couldn't do any shows. Like, I was literally trapped in this contract to the point where, there was like big singers that were trying to get me out to perform with them, and I could not even do that. And so COVID came around, my contract finally ended, but COVID was there. And so in a way, it's something that I've also been going through. So I hear you, man. Like, I think the biggest thing is like it's all about enjoying the little things that we have. Like, even for me, like, I can't see, but it's kind of embracing the human experience that we have within us. So sort of the senses, if you will. Like, I was teaching students about this last year too. It's not about what you see, it's also about how you feel and what you hear and what you smell and the taste, and really diving into that, when you walk on the ground, like the things that you feel, and sort of kind of being one with yourself, and I think that's something that I've really started to just embrace. Is it's something that you obviously keep working at, but I feel like we all have a purpose. Like, when I hear you on the airwaves and stuff, I think the calming presence that you have, especially for a crazy market as this one, and sort of the opportunities that you've been getting, and I think people have really fed off of that. And I feel like you definitely have that purpose of being able to connect with not only the listeners, but just people around you. Like, when you got here, there was this like aura and this vibe, and we just started chatting right away. And I think there's always those little things, and I think it's always important to remember that even for me, when I lost my sight, one of the things that I was always told is that one door may close for you, but others may open. And I think that's always kept me going, because I don't think I could sit here. Like, I actually wanted to be a hockey player growing up, and when I was 5, I was told, "Oh, I can't do it anymore because I'm blind," and and now there's blind hockey. So I mean, there is that, but I had to really look at being something that was gonna do more healing for me. I feel like music was that way, and I feel like for you, I think just I could even tell when Abbotsford won the cup this past year, like how emotional you were just on the radio, and how excited you were for the players. And I think that I think people can resonate with that. And I just want to say, man, like I appreciate all of the things that you are doing, and it is resonating, with a lot of people, even people who I talk to. And all of that. And I know it's a process going through it, it's like letting go and still trying to find yourself. And I think as people, we're always trying to find ourselves, we're, it doesn't matter how much success we have or how much things that we go through. Success doesn't always correlate with inner peace all the time.
I'd say it rarely does, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, I know, I've gotten to do some really, really cool things through my career. And, like, I didn't have the 15-year NHL career that, 10-year-old me thought was a given, right? Like, but in saying that, and it was tough to deal with at different points for sure, because especially with my dad having the career that he did, it almost felt like I was letting the family down. And you realize that, I mean, they want it for you too, because you want it.
Yeah.
But they just want you to be happy. And again, like that's, by no means do I have that all figured out or even halfway there. Like I'm still figuring all that out of everything, but I look back over everything that I got to do and the different experiences. Like, it was so much more than really, I mean, at the end of the day, really than I thought I would have. And, that's something to be really proud about.
Of course.
And everything. But at the same time, some of the highest highs that I had in my career as a player were also probably some of the lower times that I had as like an individual, with dealing with all the pressure and trying to be there every single day, day after day, grinding, trying to make sure I was in the lineup the next night.
Yeah.
and not really looking around and be like, hey, this is really cool. Like, in the practice rink in Boston, like I'm sitting right next to Zdeno Chara.
Yeah, 6'9" giant.
Yeah, right. Like Patrice Bergeron sitting, 7 feet to my left.
Yeah, Marshy and
Like all those guys, right?
yeah.
Like to really in Detroit, like Lidstrom, Datsuk, Zetterberg, like all these guys that you don't really look around at the time because you're so focused on the 6 inches in front of you of like, I need to be doing this. I need to be doing this. And then you look back and you're like, oh, I got to do that. I got to go do that. I never thought I'd get to, like, I always say this, like, as a kid, and it's naive, but like I knew I was going to play in the NHL.
Yeah.
Whether that was one game or for 20 years, like I knew I was going to get there.
Yeah.
The one thing that I knew I was never going to do was play for Team Canada in Olympics, because you look at the talent of Canada, you're like, I'm a pretty good player, but like those guys are quite a bit better, right? Like I knew that wasn't going to happen, but because of a multitude of different things and with COVID hitting, and that took the NHL players out for sure in 2022, like I got to have that experience and go over there and do that and put the maple leaf on, and you're like sitting there and being older and understanding it more, where you look down and you're like, holy crap, like there's a maple leaf here, and on my right shoulder there's an Olympic crest. Yeah. Like that's pretty cool, right? And just trying to take a step back and actually appreciate all of it. Again, I'm not trying to make it sound like I've got it all figured out by any means, because I don't. But at the same time, just getting a bit more of that peace when you kind of let your ego go a bit more and see that, I got to do a lot of really cool things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same with me. It's like, I got to like be around like different actors and huge musicians, and get to the top 3 of this crazy reality like I've been able to like perform at Canucks games, like
wearing the best suits ever made for men. Honestly, like I'm sitting there,
it's all my dad, man. It's all my dad.
Before we were on there, I said to you as soon as we walked in, I'm like, the first time I met you was you sang the anthem, and then I was doing the panel that night.
Yeah.
And you came up. Oh no, sorry, that's a lie, because it was a playoff game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you came up. I just was there watching that night, and you came up, and I'm like, okay, I don't know this person, but he's wearing the coolest suit I've ever seen. I gotta go say hi. I think it was the one with like the tiger or dragon or something on. It was unbelievable.
Oh man, O-Dog, you have any questions, bro?
No, I'm good.
You're enjoying the conversation.
Yeah, I'm in that zone where I'm like, I'm just gonna listen to what's being said. Like I don't know if I have much input right now, except for the suits. The colorful shoes too to add on.
Oh yeah, he's working it. I feel like I got some decent ones, but I'm like, I gotta up my game if I'm gonna compete with you. That's for sure.
No, man. It's all my family, and like you said, like we talked about. I mean, I think family has been a huge part of our lives for both of us. For all 3 of us, who are sitting here today. So, that's so beautiful. And one of the things that, really resonated with me is that you got the Yannick Dupre Award, for community work. Like, what was that like? And how does that, give a purpose to, beyond hockey, and what drives you to give back?
Well, I mean, I've always liked it. That was something that, like my mom and dad got divorced going into my dad's last year in Atlanta, like his last year that he played. And he had another year on his contract. And mom's like, of course, we'll come back and be in Atlanta. I'm not going to, move and make you choose between your career and the kids. Like, they were, luckily civil enough to be able to do that and see that, there's a bigger thing than just those, like them two. Like they wanted to make sure us kids were in the best position possible to help through a tough time. But my mom was with my dad for his whole career, and the wives of players, it seems like the best thing ever, right? Like, your husbands are making good money and you get to just kind of do whatever you want. The part that never gets seen is you get traded, you get moved, you sign new contracts, you're constantly having to pack up, you're dealing with us kids, moving schools, having to change friends, going through all that. I was lucky that I'm built a bit more like my dad, where I mean, we can talk, right? Like we can go into a different room, even as a little kid, and I'd just start blabbering, and before you knew it, I'd have a couple friends, and we're playing sports.
Yeah.
For my brother, it was a bit tougher as a kid. Like he was a bit more introverted, a bit more, a bit quieter. It would take him a little bit longer. It's funny because you look at him now and he's a completely different person. He's just crushing it through his professional life and with his family as well. But, my mom, that was something that she always kind of filled her time with, was giving back, working with the different teams, whether it was, New York, LA, Atlanta, doing the charity side, and she'd drag us along. And, was it something as a, 6-year-old, 7-year-old that you want to go do? No, you want to go play. You want to go do other things, but she always made it a part of our lives, and I always liked it. And the best part, and it's something that I kind of miss at this point of, you're on a team, they have all these different initiatives going on. Like, you don't have to do any of the work except show up and have fun with whatever you're doing on the community.
No, I agree.
Like it was just, it's already set. You just show up. Oh, okay. Like in Grand Rapids, we did a bunch with the Boys and Girls Club. Like, I didn't have to organize going about doing that. They'd say, hey, be there at 3:00. You'd show up, you'd play with the kids for an hour and a half and have a blast and help, hope that they have fun with it as well. Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
But, that year that I won the community award in the American League it was the year before was really, really tough. My oldest friend, Craig Cunningham, that was the year that he had went into cardiac arrest on the ice in Tucson just before the game started.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so getting that call after my game, because I was playing when that happened, getting that call from my dad and then talking to his mom, Heather, and her saying, if you want to see him, you probably got to come right now because we don't know if he's going to make it. And while that was going on, my grandfather just passed away as well. So there's a lot going on as I get emotional now, but dealing with that, and then Craig, pulling through, he ends up, losing, the left bottom half of his leg, but that also saved his life, right? At the time, the machine that saved his life it's called ECMO.
Okay.
A type of life support.
Yeah.
And so there's tubes that go into either leg and up in your neck area as well, and it circulates blood. And so the left leg was the one that pumped blood up. So he was basically lost all his blood flow to that. But so he ended up losing that part of his leg, but it also saved his life. The crazy part is there's 13 of them at the time in North America of these machines, and one happened to be in Tucson. That machine's not there. He's probably not here today. Jeez. So, Craig starts to pull through, and, he went crazy at the start in the sense of because that's how he always was. And that's, I trained every summer with him. We lived together. We did everything together. We went through our whole careers basically at the same point.
Yeah.
And he was the one where it was always if I'm working as hard as Craig is, I'm going to be fine. Yeah. Right. He was the workhorse.
Yeah.
But for him, he started his initiative, the All Heart Foundation, and was starting to work with that. So I figured, which I laugh now because I said, I'll donate. I can't even remember what it was. It was $100 a goal or something if I scored. And that was the year that I had my big surgery as well. So I scored no goals. So the donation side was lacking a little bit. I had to kind of bump that up at the end of the year to make it actually something. Yeah. But, it was a way that, I'd go to the Iowa Heart Foundation and working with the community staff with the Iowa Wild. They helped me, again, get all that organized. And so you'd go in and talk to these kids that are going through such bigger things than I'd ever been through.
Yeah.
And seeing how they just go about their life. They're like, yeah, this is what it is. I remember this one kid talking about it, and it was he was just talking like we are now.
Yeah.
But he's talking about something that essentially is kind of a life or death situation for himself. And yet he's just, yeah, well, so they did this surgery and, they had to do this and that. And you're just like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, holy crap, like this kid's like 11.
Yeah.
And he's going through all this. So, I helped out as much as I could. We'd have, I had season tickets that would bring families that were sitting there dealing with all this. They were able to come and have a fun night at a hockey game and just take them out a little bit. And so through that, that's, I got the award. It's all Craig, right?
It's all Craig, yeah.
It's just doing the little bit I could to help his cause.
Well, I think, it's all Craig, but it's also your contribution to it too, right? And I think, it's just that the sort of like, just even from talking to you, right? It's the emotional connection that you feel, and I totally. And I think the biggest thing is like when you see other people going through things that are bigger than yours, that are bigger than what maybe, you and I or anyone else has gone through, it just kind of teaches us, right? It's like, we're in a really, really favorable position comparative maybe to a lot of other people, but it's like, still like we still feel and we still, I think, the way we were all raised here too is like, to always count our lucky stars in a sense, if that makes any sense.
No, I mean, like a big part of it too was for me was like seeing these families and like parents dropping everything to be there for their kid now, or the grandparent helping out, and like everyone just rallying around and trying to help. But I kind of realized it then, way more now, but they're dropping everything to go and help. Well, that also means that they're not working. So now they're not making money. They're just getting by, making sure that they're doing everything they can to help.
Yeah.
I was so fortunate that, I had a lot of surgeries and I had to do a lot of rehab. I got paid through all that. Yeah. Like, I'm so fortunate that all I had to worry about was, like making a pretty good living.
Yeah.
But okay, today I'm going to go to the rehab place and I'm going to do an hour of these little exercises trying to help get my body back working.
Yeah.
And then after that was done, I'd go to the gym, work with the trainer and do upper body.
Yeah.
Like, that was my day.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, that's really not that bad.
No.
And I had no worries of, okay, am I going to be able to make my mortgage payment? Am I going to be able to pay rent or any of that? Like, everything was still taken care of. I was still under my contract. I was getting taken care of. I didn't have any extra worries.
Yeah.
All these families are going through way harder things and yet don't have any of that security.
No, totally. And I think it just shows us, what, the inner peace or the inner struggles that sometimes we deal with. I think at least it gives us, it doesn't necessarily take away the inner struggles, but it gives us more of that appreciation of what our lives are like. And I think that's really beautifully put. And, like I said, I feel like we all have some sort of spiritual purpose on this earth. And I actually talked about this in an episode before too, is, you could be working for retail and you could be, working at a grocery store and you're helping provide families with food, and, you're working as a car salesman and you're trying to help someone buy a good vehicle for themselves, and you're a gardener and you're helping, preserve the earth and preserve nature. And I think there's a really beautiful spiritual component of it. And, just to end off on a lighter note as we hear a lot of planes coming in.
They're telling us, wrap it up over here, would you? That's enough of that.
But obviously the Calder Cup in 2013, that was, I'm sure, a huge highlight for you. And, being a part of that, what did that teach you about individual success versus team unity in your life even? And I think it's something we've touched on actually, but also, just any stories about Charlotte, man, after Abbotsford won. I mean, that must have been a pretty crazy thing to be a part of, and especially, I guess this was your second season, just being on the radio waves and just being able to experience the Calder Cup run.
Yeah, I mean, starting with our Calder in 2013 in Grand Rapids, Detroit's farm team, I mean, it was the most fun I've ever had playing hockey. It was, I mean, it's such a cliche, but it is, like, it's so important. Like, it
Yeah.
was the tightest knit group I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
You didn't, like, you're on some teams and, yeah, like, they're tight, but you'd get on the road and, maybe you had something to do when you got off the bus or the plane or whatever. And so that delayed you a half hour, and then your normal, kind of dinner crew that you'd go with have already left.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, like, I guess I'll go with those guys. And, like, it's fine.
Yeah.
But, like, that year in Grand Rapids, could go to dinner with anyone. Hell, you could go to dinner with some of the staff. Like, Jeff Blashill was our coach.
It kind of reminds me of the Florida Panthers, right? Like, where they've talked about it too. Yeah.
And, like, you were happy with anyone. And you're always just excited to get to the room the next day because, maybe something happened between the time you left the rink the day before and you're getting there the next day and you're like, I can't wait to tell the guys about this. Or you heard something that someone went and did, maybe they had got a flat tire and there was them trying to change a tire. Like, who knows, right? It could be anything, but you're so excited to hear about what guys did the day before.
Yeah.
Something as little as that. But, you go through that playoff run and, like, it was a lot. We played all but 2 games through that playoff run. So we ended up playing 24 extra games. So the game we won was game 100 that year.
Wow.
I didn't play the last game of the season, just kind of getting rested, taking a little break. But so, like, I played 99 games that year. So, I mean, the biggest thing that it taught me, and I mean, it helped with dealing with injuries and stuff later, but, like, realizing even being that depleted, how much farther I could push myself and not just get through the game, but be really effective.
An integral part of it.
Yeah. And knowing that, okay, I might be tired, I might be this, I might be that, but I know I can still do my job.
Yeah.
And so, like, that was the biggest thing. And that's something that, I take with me now, like, through this past year's, kid might get up 3 times in the middle of the night, and then I got to do my game prep the next day, and I knew my wife would be working, so, like, okay, I'll do the nighttime because I know you're going to have them all through the day. Like, I'll help out with that. You're exhausted, but you can still do your job. You can still get through it. It's fine. So knowing how far I could push my body mentally, physically, was the biggest thing that I took out of that. But I mean, again, it was the most fun I've ever had. And then jumping to, a couple months ago of getting to do the games in Abbotsford and being there when they won, it was a pretty cool moment. Like, the horn goes, you see the guys jumping over the boards, they're losing their mind. I'm like, and we're way up top of the Bojangles Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina. But, like, watching that, it was like kind of watching myself and my teammates celebrate. Like, that's what it looked like. Like, pure joy. And seeing a guy like Manny Malhotra and Ryan Johnson, who had these amazing NHL careers, that you could just see them buzzing. Like, the excitement that they had for themselves, but more importantly, like, what they had for their players. And that's what we had in Jeff Blashill in Grand Rapids. I've said it so many times, but, like, he was by far my favorite coach I've ever had.
Wow.
And he was able to talk to you honestly and very direct. But at the same time, you knew that he had your back. Anything that he was doing was because if he was asking you to do something that was a bit out of the norm, like, it was because he thought you could do it. Or not even thought, like, he knew you could do it. So it gave you that confidence. Like, I led the team in goals that year. Did help that Thomas Tatar and Gustav Nyquist were up and down a little bit.
They're incredible, man.
That kept their goal total a little bit further down. But, like, I led the team in goals that Calder Cup year in the regular season. I get back to Grand Rapids that next season. Before we even get on the ice, Blash sits me down and says, like, I'm not going to play on the power play this year. And as soon as I hear that, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Right? Like, that's what I do. And he's like, I can put you there if you want, but you're not going to make the next level as a scorer right now. Like, you're not putting Pavel Datsyuk out of the lineup. You're not putting a Henrik Zetterberg or any of those guys. Like, you have to make it as a PK guy. And I'd already killed penalties, but not to the extent that I would that year. And so we kind of made a deal. He's like, do it my way for a month. We'll talk then. And if you don't like how it's going, I'll put you on the power play that next game. But just play the PK. You'll be the first one out after it ends. You're going to play a ton of 5-on-5, all those situations.
Yeah.
I ended up leading the American League in shorthanded goals that year.
Wow.
And I finished the year in Detroit, played the 7 playoff games against Tampa. We lost in game 7.
Yeah. That was like the Tyler Johnson show, right?
Yeah.
Like,
But like
yeah.
our line, like me, Luke Glendenning, and Drew Miller, we shut them down unbelievably.
Yeah.
And, unlucky that we had Marek Jadlicki got hurt for game 7. Nicholas Kronwall got suspended for game 7 because he absolutely blew up.
Yeah, the
Kucherov.
Kronwallian hit, right?
Yeah, it happened on the boards about 8 feet to my left, just inside the zone, and the sound that it made when he hit him was devastating. But, so we end up losing game 7, but none of that would have happened unless I had a coach that really, I don't know if I could swear, but gave a shit about me.
No,
right?
Of course. Yeah. Go for it, man.
But he really cared. And you could tell that, especially now looking back, but like how much thought through the summer did he have just about me as a player?
Yeah.
That was a lot that went into it. And
of course,
to be able to have that conversation and make me feel at ease of like, you know what, he hasn't steered me wrong yet. I'll give it a go. And it worked out pretty good.
No, and like that's with any, like I was always raised with like this sort of like tough love kind of thing. So it's like when you're young, you don't really know, or sometimes it's hard for you to take in, but then when you get older too, right, you just kind of understand where it was coming from. And it wasn't tough love to the point where it was like insulting, but it was this like honesty, right? Like and I feel like a lot of us these days, like when there are honest conversations to be had, I mean, I think social media has played such a role in not being able to have conversations these days. I mean, that's a different story for a different time. But
I mean, sorry to cut you off, but it makes me laugh because it's, nowadays you can't have a direct conversation a lot of times because you have to be aware of what you're saying and all of this other things. But the line that you hear all the time that makes me laugh is someone starts with, well, I'm just being honest. And then they'll say something that you're like, well, no, you're kind of just being an ass. Like, like just because you said I'm being honest doesn't mean it's okay to just throw out whatever you want.
Communication is important.
Like the best things in my life have always come from those honest conversations of but again, I guess it all goes back to like, you have to have mutual respect. If you have that respect, you can be more free with someone. And again, like Blashill, before he was even he was our coach, but we hadn't even been on the ice yet. This is actually a pretty funny story if I can weave us away a little bit. But so, I'd have my stuff all in my apartment in Grand Rapids. You rent it for the season, and then you'd pack it up, put it in a storage unit till the next year. Well, I came back that next year, went to my storage locker after I rented my place, went to put my key in, key doesn't work. I'm like, well, that's a little weird. I'm like, I've had a bunch of different storage lockers with different locks. Maybe I grabbed the wrong key, but I went into the office. I'm like, I can't get into my unit. And they're like, what number was that? So I tell them what unit number, and they're like, and they turn around and they grab this big folder. So what happened was one of the employees of the storage place and one of the managers were running a hustle, essentially, of I paid all in full because, I knew at that age, I was like 21 or whatever. I wasn't going to remember to pay it monthly, so I paid it all up front. So they'd take the payment, put all the paperwork, and then as soon as I left, they canceled all that out. They pocketed the money, and then remember Storage Wars?
Yeah. I've heard about
essentially,
those.
That's what happened. They storage ward mine. I think it was like 8 other units off. All of our stuff gone. Like I had suits, all my furniture, all my kitchen stuff, everything.
Everything was gone.
And then, again, at the time I was mad, but it made me laugh, especially looking back. Gustav Nyquist asked, he's like, hey, do you mind if I throw a couple things in your unit?
Yeah.
Because he rented furniture, so he didn't need a full unit. So he had his first goal plaque thing that the Red Wings made for him was in there. So that gone. So all the newspapers, all everyone cared about was getting Gustav Nyquist his first goal back. I'm like, how about the thousands of dollars of furniture and clothes and everything? Everything of mine's gone. But so again, before we even got on the ice with Jeff Blashill, he gives me a call and he's like, hey, I heard what happened. You know, that was the first year he was in Grand Rapids. He's like, you know, we got into our house here and we don't have space for one of our older couches. Do you want it? So I was like, sure. Like, I don't even know what it is, but like, you know, it's like we were making pretty good money, but not enough where I'm like, I can just go buy everything brand new and I'm not going to feel it. So I go over there. He helps me load in this sofa. That's what I use for the year. Like, so right from the very beginning, I'm like, oh, this guy's kind of cool. Like, you know, he didn't have to do that. He went out of his way to make sure that, you know, he's like, I can help. Here you go. Take it. I didn't pay anything for it. Nothing. He just, I mean, looking back, was like, I probably saved him work. He's like, I don't have to bring the thing to the dump anymore. He could come take it away for me. But again, like, it built trust. It built respect right away.
Yeah. And you know, as a coach and player too, right? Like it kind of, like you said, it builds more of that camaraderie when the coaches, you know, obviously they can't be your friend, but they can, you know, be someone that, you know, can be empathetic to the players and, you know, their situations. And I think that goes a long way with, you know, players buying into the system too, right?
100%.
Owen, did you have a question?
It was just going to be like, so you've done like radio stuff before, right? Because I'm a huge radio fan.
Okay.
I was going to ask, like, what games do you announce usually? Like, what?
I did about 15 of the Canuck games this year, so mostly Saturdays, because obviously Randy John is the main guy, or not the main guy. He is the guy with Bachelor doing the games for 650. But on Saturdays, he hosts Hockey Night in Punjabi.
Oh, okay.
So when he goes and does that, I get to jump in the booth. And, you know, at the beginning of the year, I thought I was going to get like one a month. And I don't know if it just worked out that he got busier and I got to do more, or I was doing okay at it. So they said, okay, you can do a bit more. But so I ended up doing about 15 of those. And then, you know, probably I jumped down to Abbotsford and did, you know, 6 or 7 through the year. And then, you know, a decent amount of the playoffs as well.
That's crazy.
But it's, you know, it's like anything, like you're trying to start something new. Like I'm trying to get into media. I'm trying to be an analyst. My goal is to be on TV and do the color analyst and do that for a long time. That's what I really have learned that I love to do.
Yeah.
It's about getting as many reps as you can, right? So, you know, even this, like, you know, you're saying thank you for me coming and doing this, but like this is another rep for me, right? Like it's not to, but like it is, right? Like it's, you know, me and John Shannon started a podcast, 100% Canucks, and you know, I've never interviewed someone before. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, I guess I got to figure that out.
You got to interview the general manager.
Exactly,
you got to interview Adam Foote, you know, like,
Yeah. So, but it started the 2 years ago in playoffs. I'd go into studio with Dan and Sat and we do the intermissions. And I was like, oh, that was kind of fun. And, you know, maybe I'll do a little bit more. And then this next season was starting and they called about the panel doing that on TV. And then I got to do all the radio stuff as well. And, you know, I do a bunch of hits through the week and all that, but I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, it also really helps when you have like good teammates.
Exactly.
You know,
like those guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Honestly, the whole crew at 650 has been really helpful. And not only, you know, I'm helping fill their airtime as well, but, you know, they don't have to keep calling. It's their show.
Yeah.
They don't need me to come on to help them do their job. They're really good at what they do. But you know, they know that I'm trying to push and do more and more. So they've been, you know, really, really good to me, trying to get me those reps as well.
Yeah.
But it's like anything, and, you know, not to make it bigger again, but like anything in life, like just don't say no.
Yeah.
Like just say yes to as much as you possibly can.
Yeah,
whether you end up liking that thing.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, okay. That's, you know, I started doing radio. I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and do more. Well, I always thought that I was going to be in coaching when I was a player.
Yeah.
Well, I said yes to that, and I learned, yeah, you know what? Probably
really,
not for
mate,
me,
yeah.
but I still learned that it wasn't for me. Now I can realize, okay, that can kind of push to the side, and I can do some stuff in the summer to, get that, scratch that itch a little bit, but I don't want to do that full time.
Yeah, no, and I think that's part of the human experience. Sometimes, it's like this is a silly example, but it's like when you let's say if you want to go on a date with somebody that you feel like may not be your type, whether it's someone who can't see or someone who's like, you feel like is different or whatever it is, but then you do and you're like, maybe I actually do connect with this person, right? Or it's like, oh, like I didn't know that I would enjoy this, but now that I tried it, I actually do enjoy it. And sometimes you try it and you're like, nope, definitely not my thing, right? Like for me, it was, I felt like I was going to be a guitarist and I got into guitar, but I just realized that it wasn't really my thing. Even as a musician, it wasn't really my thing, So,
well, yeah, like my first year out while I was doing the coaching, like, I had no idea what my future, I still don't. I'm working towards something, but like, I'm like, I need to be doing something. I never, I got my high school diploma, but did I do a lot for it or did I just get through, right?
Yeah.
But
It's all comfort zone, yeah.
Yeah, like I signed up, I ended up getting my real estate license.
Wow.
If anyone wants someone with zero experience, give me a call.
Just call Eddie Lack. You guys
There you
could do, yeah.
But like it's just trying to expand and learn that, I ended up learning. I'm like, I kind of do like school. I like learning new things and do that. But you'd never know that until you give it a try.
Until you give it a try. Well, before you go, beyond the accolades, beyond hockey, what would you say your purpose is, and why?
Poof. My purpose, I couldn't tell you overall. I could say my purpose right now is professionally trying to really expand my comfort in being in front of a microphone, being able to express my feelings and thoughts correctly and proficiently, like not getting long-winded because you don't always have that time. But personally, it's about learning to not be in an all-in situation all the time where like, okay, I need to do this, well, then everything else slides off.
Yeah.
And becoming a dad is definitely a big part of that.
Yeah, 100%.
Realizing that
That's an important purpose.
yeah, like I need to make sure that I do well professionally, that I can help along with my wife and her work, that we can provide a good life for our kid. But at the end of the day, he doesn't care if I was good on the call that night. He wants me to come back and that next morning pop up at 6:30 in the morning, make him some food, play floor hockey. Because it's funny how it's just built in sometimes. He's 1.5. I haven't pushed anything on him yet, but like he wakes up most mornings and he either, when I open up the door, he either yells hi or he's yelling hockey. So, like I'm right back into floor hockey, but like it's that, right? Like just trying to be the best that you can at all of it, but understanding that you're going to fall short a lot of the time. And
that's okay.
And that's fine. Yeah. But as long as you're learning from it and trying to better yourself take them out of it, better yourself for yourself, that you're happy with where you're at and not always looking to the next thing. I would say that's the biggest thing I'm working on right now. And my purpose is trying to have my feet grounded a little better, not always looking to the next thing. Just be happy with be happy with where you're at.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of it too, and I think maybe the other part of the purpose is that you never know. Your son, through you could be the hockey player too, growing up, right? And so I think there's always things that sometimes we don't know the reason to it now, but we always find out later. There was so much more, and it comes from a lot of reflection. And that's something that we're all trying to do, and I think that's a great message, bro. And once again, thanks for being on here. Really, you took so much time out.
No worries. This was awesome.
Yeah, can't wait for people to hear this. I think there's a lot that they can learn from it. I think there's a lot that I've learned today, just even hearing you talk about your experiences and life experiences, and through this podcast, that's what we want to do. Is we want to, in such a divided world, it's all about making sure that we find the commonalities within one another, that, we're not all that different, even though we have different opinions or different things, but it's, we're all, craving a lot of the same things at the same time as humans. And I think it's about bringing the world together in that sense. And I'm just so glad that you've been a part of it, and you've been such a perfect guest. Really meant a lot to have you on. And for those that are listening, whether it's the day or night, really hope you guys have a great day or great night, and hope you guys could take a lot from this. We'll be back with another very special guest, and thanks for listening to Rhythm and Remedy. Take care, lots of love, and love one another. Cheers.
The time has come to share your thoughts. Relive your moments. Open up your heart with one and only Rhythm and Remedy.